Welcome back to New Day. We're live and it's now time to look at the newspapers, and I'll start off with the Business and Financial Times, BNFT, and it has its biggest headline as quoting the Vice President saying that let's devalue currencies, and that's of course in line with the ECOWAS single currency policy. Also on its front page says Ghana's 11 million cedis debt hangs over the Youth Enterprise Agency, YEA. 11 million cedi debt hangs over YEA. And transport sector left to donors. Those are the stories on the front page of the BNFT. On the back page, it says here that AMA exceeds revenue targets. Now, the Ghanaian Times newspaper says that microfinance customers swerved. And that story is on page 3. School feeding caterers call off strike. Some good news there. And IGP assures of security for workers demo. IGP assures of security for workers demo. Remember, this week he would also launch the election security task force as well. So IGP John Kudalo there. And asphalting of Accra roads begins. The president led that. Asphalting of Accra roads begins. Also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspapers. And 5 hospitality facilities closed down in the eastern region. 5 hospitality facilities closed down in the eastern region. And Meteo warns of heat till April. Meteo warns of heat till April. That's a meteorological agency. The Finder newspaper says that IMF backs, and in quotes, killer taxes. IMF backs killer taxes. And 1,634 perish in accidents in 2015. New U.S. envoy assumes duty. And NPP will scrap crippling taxes. Nana Akufo-Addo there at the fundraising held in the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. President Mahama promises more asphalt roads. That's also captured by the Finder newspaper. The Daily Guide has a story, and its headline, biggest one on its front page here, says that I had HIV, and the paper is quoting Joyce Jijo. Joyce Jijo confesses, saying that I had HIV. Also on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper says that soldier crashes to death at Burma camp. I'll scrap killer taxes. That story has also been captured by the Daily Guide newspaper. And the Akufo-Addo is saying, and NDC man busted with cocaine in London. And the paper is reporting, Daily Guide newspaper reporting that. We'll move on to the Daily Graphic newspaper. And on its front page, the biggest headline has to do with the Accra roads. And it says, facelift of Accra City roads begins. And Akufo-Addo promises to restore hope to Ghanaians. That's on the top left corner of the paper, Daily Graphic. So those are the stories on its front. It says, robbers ambush traders at Bonso Nkwan, captured by the Daily Graphic. Chinese ambassador, on its back page though, it says Chinese ambassador inaugurates ICT Center for Tempan, SHS, no vehicle for inmates of Tamale prison. Right, and that has to do with conveying prisoners to hospital, that there's no vehicle at the Tamale prison. Business Day newspaper says TUC shows government red flag, and high interest rates killing economy. That is captured by the Business Day newspaper. The Telegraph, General Telegraph says ECOWAS identity card comes into use this month. Punch says Power Ministry in danger. NPP brags of international support to use fundraising as cover-up. That's from the Informer. Let's see which other paper. The Inquisitor Okay, embargo on airport lands. So those are the papers. And today, Apartheid CCC, Muhammad Boy causes confusion at ISD. So yeah, I just did a quick run through all the other papers. And the Herald, my final one says, for the 10th NPP anti-America shows this interest in fight against terrorism. Right. So those are the papers for the morning. My guests are seated. So we're back in the studio now. Let me just introduce my guest. She's a familiar face, member of Parliament for Ablikuma West constituency. And she's here, Mrs. Ekufu, Madam Eslowusu. Welcome to the show. I haven't seen you this year, so happy and prosperous New Year to you as well.
Thank you very much, and I wish the same.
All right. Thank you very much. And then we have been joined by Director WHO. See, I always try to get collaboration.
I like that.
I know. Yeah, Professor Alex Zodo is also joined us. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And welcome to the show as well.
Thank you.
We also have Member of Parliament for North Tong and Deputy Minister Education joining us. Good morning to you as well. And to both gentlemen, happy and prosperous New Year to both of you.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. Quickly to the newspapers. I want to start with the Daily Guide, and it's a bigger story. It says, I had HIV, Jijo confesses. The Ghana AIDS Commission, I would start from you, Health, has also actually issued a statement saying, indeed, cataloguing, the breaches that she may have committed and per her contract. Quite apart from that, a lot of people see this as she's broke, she wants money, she wants attention. Is that what you see from where you sit?
Oh, this whole issue, this whole HIV I didn't have. I think for me, her motives are very difficult to understand and explain to the ordinary person. But the important thing to put across to Ghanaians and to the whole nation is this. HIV, fine, we used to call it a killer disease because it killed. Fortunately, we have treatment, effective treatment, that people on the treatment, for as long as they are on the treatment, actually can have the virus, the level of virus in their blood so low that you don't even detect it. But if you stop treatment, it resurfaces again. So now we call it a chronic condition. But the way she has played it, or the way it's all been played out, now you see a front page headline, I had HIV. Doesn't mean that you can have it and you don't have it again.
Currently, per her statement, she says that for taking the drugs for so long, it's gotten to a point where you can no longer detect it. You're a medical person, so you can tell us, is that even possible?
Okay, if you have HIV, you are taking your medicines, the level of the virus in your blood becomes so low that it becomes undetectable. But once you've been exposed to the virus and you've had the virus, we can always tell. You've been in touch, so it's basically.
Can't she be
it's in your DNA. We can. It's impossible for us.
Miraculously be healed, because she calls that the
you
miracle.
Can miraculously be healed, but we would know that you have had HIV. So if you had it before you've come into contact, your DNA is changed. Just a bit of saliva or blood, and we can tell that yes, you have it. It's like malaria. We can pick up whether you've had it or you know had it before ever in your life. Not that you have it at the moment as we speak. So in that case, she needs to come clean and say, look, maybe I never had HIV. I had again, but then she's gone here, and probably this might be a legal case in the end. And if it becomes a legal case, you would have to call the experts. And once you call the experts, the fact of the matter is that if you have HIV and you are taking your medicines, the level of the virus becomes very low to almost undetectable. But if you stop treatment, it comes back. So if this person is saying that she stopped, then let her stop the treatment if she was on treatment, and let's see what happens. It's as simple as that. But if she's on treatment, she should tell us what treatment is she taking, who gave it to her, how frequently is she taking it. Then we'll know as well. So it's a simple issue, but of course I know the media loves it, everyone loves it because it creates some controversies.
The Ghana AIDS Commission has also stated that not once, all the issues he's put in the media, she's never catalogued and petitioned the Ghana AIDS Commission. But she just puts it out in the media takes it up, and then the GAC is forced to react to it. Why is she using that strategy? Can you just, from where you sit, and try to understand what's going through her mind?
It comes to one thing we always talk about: civil enforcement. If anyone has defrauded the Ghana AIDS Commission, a presidential commission, by the way, that for me is a serious offense. And if that has happened, they must use the law. And the laws are clear. There are so many portions of the criminal code that can be applied. And you deal with it once and for all. The longer this drags on, the more the credibility of that very respectable commission. Let's face it, nobody can say anything negative about that commission, because over the years, it served us very well. And it's helped Ghana to the point that we are among the few countries where HIV has been falling, not rising. Okay.
Madam Eslowusu, your woman, and she's a mother. Now, her reason, she says, I did this for my kids. I didn't want my kids to be stigmatized in school because they are going through that. And so I had to just come up with this story so that people would leave my kids alone. Is that reason enough?
Let me say good morning to your viewers again and a happy new year to all of them. This is the first time I'm coming.
Yes, welcome.
And to my constituents as well. A happy new year. I don't know why this lady is using the media to seek attention.
Okay.
If she wants to protect her kids, I think she's going about it the wrong way. All this is even putting even more attention on her kids. And every time her name is mentioned, like we're doing here, and her kids' mates in school hear of it, oh, that's the AIDS girl's mother. That's the, So if you want to protect your kids, you keep them away from the limelight and you keep yourself away from the limelight. It's instructive that the AIDS Commission says they've never been formally petitioned by her. If you have an issue, you go first to the person who has a solution to your problem. You don't go trumpeting it out there. If you put it in the media, my assumption is that you think the media can help solve the problem. So, okay, deal with it in that forum. But if you petition them and then announce it in the media, it would make sense to me. But you haven't done what you need to do primarily, and you're always out there claiming that you want to protect your children. That is the very wrong way she's going about it. Somehow, I think she needs help.
Okay.
And this may be a cry for help.
Okay.
Not so much material help, but psychological help.
But for some, yes, the psychological is there, but currently to survive, she needs the material help, and that's the money. When she was the ambassador for HIV, she had certain benefits. When her contract was terminated, clearly she lost them. But the Ghana AIDS Commission, the statement I have before me says that even though she's claiming that she was ejected from the place, she was never ejected. She kept living there, but she couldn't represent them as an ambassador because she had private engagements where she goes, she speaks, and she takes money, which was in breach of her contract. So is this not just, monetary motivation before we talk about even the psychological bit?
But if, yeah, that's part of it, and that's probably why she's always out there in the media to give the AIDS Commission a bad name. But my point is, you were an ambassador for a period. Yes. Prior to that, what were you doing? Is that the sum total of your life? So because this particular contract has come to an end, you cannot do anything to earn a living for yourself and your children. I don't like this dependency syndrome. I think that she, even by her work as an AIDS ambassador, she's built enough goodwill to be able to go out there on her own and do other things. And if this thing ended impromptu and before she prepared herself for life beyond being an ambassador, it's been 5 years. For how long are you going to depend on the AIDS Commission for a livelihood? It cannot be in perpetuity. Even if she had still continued as an AIDS ambassador, it would be a term thing. After a while, the contract would end. How is she positioning herself now? And you can appeal for charity, but by her own posturing, she has not endeared herself to even those who might have wanted to assist her. And so this constant press conference, this, that. Yes, it's all well and good. This morning we're discussing her. Maybe that's what she wants. But if she's serious about getting a solution to her problem, she should go to the source of the problem and solution, which I believe is the AIDS Commission, and sit down and dialogue with them. And at the end of the day, they may be able to have some accommodation for her. But she shouldn't think that this is a lifelong source of revenue for her. It's bound to terminate at some point. So she needs to think about what she can do subsequently to stand on her own feet. It's not right to use her status to enrich herself. I am totally against that.
Okay.
Yes, she needs help, but maybe she needs more psychological than material help.
I would actually want to pick, my two final words from you before I even come to the Deputy Minister for Education here, that in her statement as well, she says because it's alleged that she has some political affiliation. I mean, given her credibility issue currently at stake, I mean, should we even consider that, or we should just, just ignore it?
I would use the word ignore her, and I would say this. There are so many poor and vulnerable people who have HIV and who are just struggling to make by. That's number one. She has taken the limelight away from the critical and important issues of state. That is not one. Number two, the fact that you are not in contrast with the AIDS Commission does not prevent you from going out to talk about the message you believe in. So if she really believes in the whole messaging, she could go out there, talk to others, convince them to support you to carry on the work of fighting against HIV/AIDS, if that is what she wants to do. So for me, this contractual issue is something which should not even be coming out here. And I keep saying that if the AIDS Commission have gone to court and insisted that, look, you breached our contract, these are the penalties, probably wouldn't be here. And sometimes we may need to do that.
Okay, Madam Esther, political connotations, undertones.
You know, people keep pushing these buttons to either gain sympathy or to explain their conduct. I don't think we should keep doing it. It's like our spiritualization of everything. No, it's not right. Let's deal with the issues as they are. If she has evidence to show that because of her political, I don't know what her political affiliation is. I am frankly, it's a game of numbers, but let's focus on the issues. You have an issue, let's deal with it, and let's leave the politics out of it. We do that, and then it muddies the conversation and the discussion, and it veers into all kinds of areas we wouldn't want to go to.
Okay, Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa, this is a woman who was an ambassador and had gone to several schools, hundreds of schools, 150 schools, I believe, talking to them about stigmatization, especially, among kids, parents, and the like. And she was actually ambassador for, those who could prevent mother-to-child transmission. So it was key. What does this do to kids who have listened to her over the years, and now, her credibility is at stake, and coming back and forth, backtracking, doing on? What does this do to the kids?
Yeah, let me also extend New Year wishes to our dear viewers and to my constituents in North Tong. Jijo Mensah's story, it's a very sad one indeed. I agree with Honorable Osla Kufu that she needs help. I want to appeal to the general public that we should extend to her a lot of empathy. I know that there is a tendency to get angry with her, especially due to her back and forth and the way she seemed to have rubbed off the wrong side so far as AIDS Commission is concerned, her sponsors, those who saw her as a role model. And you are right, we in the educational system have used her a lot. You know that at even the Best Teacher Awards, we award the most HIV compliant schools, teachers who do carry out HIV education very well. We award them, they receive awards. So HIV prevention is key. It has been very well embedded in our educational system, and we make sure that our schools teach the subject, and I believe that has also helped in bringing down the prevalence rate. But back to Jijo Mensah's conduct, I've read her latest epistle, and you don't quite really get her trajectory. In one breath she's complaining about stigma, in another breath she's complaining about neglect, that her husband left her, and then she says also that there is a loan she took from UT
to produce her movie. Yes,
she has not been able to pay for that loan. So is stigma, is financial, is neglect, is her kids, because she also talks about how her children were under constant victimization, as she put it. So you can tell that this is a worried person. This is a very worried person. I am not too keen at this stage on whether she had HIV or not. The AIDS Commission obviously has issued a statement that they have been vindicated, because earlier the assumption was that they did not carry out proper due diligence. They didn't do their background checks.
In fact,
that Jijo had taken them on a ride. But now that she is back saying she indeed has HIV, I wouldn't use had, because what the experts tell us is that there's still no cure. You can only manage it if you are taking your drugs very well. So at this point, really, we can only appeal for some empathy for her, and let's see if we can get her some psychologists to assist her. I really think that as a mother, for her children, for herself, it's important that we protect her. I still see her as a vulnerable person in our society, and that it is important that we extend to her a lot of care. I know that the way she's gone about things, courting media attention, and virtually...
You mean to antagonize the GAC?
Virtually, yes, and virtually even subjecting her sponsors to some ridicule. There's a tendency for everybody to just avoid her, just neglect her, get angry, and then, leave her to her fate. That will even be more dangerous. We don't want to wake up tomorrow and hear that she has committed suicide, God forbid, but these are things that can happen if people show these tendencies. It's clear they need some psychological attention, some counseling, and there are a lot of good counselors, good psychologists or psychoanalysts in our system who we should encourage to assist her.
All right. Can she be compelled to seek psychological? I mean, can we go? I mean, given the angle, can we do that?
Unfortunately, healthcare practice in Ghana.
I remember initially we couldn't even compel her to take the test because it's voluntary.
If a court of competent jurisdiction in Ghana decides that her conduct is a risk to herself, her children, or to society, then there can be a legal order. But beyond that, unfortunately, we can only encourage her to use the words of the minister.
All right. But, Madam, if she decided, yes, I am an HIV ambassador, I am so popular, yes, whether on the Heart to Heart Foundation, and somebody proposes that I do a movie, I earn something from it, I shoot a music video, what's wrong with that? Even if it's in breach of whatever she's signed to. Yeah, she's just only capitalizing on her popularity to do movies and music.
Well, there are benefits, rights and responsibilities under every contract. So you've signed on for and taken on certain obligations. You can't say, I am doing a movie and what's wrong with the fact that it may be in breach of my contract. Once you do an act which is a direct contravention of your obligations under the contract, you've taken yourself outside the ambit of the contract. So it either automatically ends your association with them, or sanctions are attached to that action. So you can't eat your cake and have it. You're either working with the AIDS Commission or you're going off on your own. She has to decide. She can't do both. And I think that's what she didn't advert her mind to, and she thinks that, it's still in promotion of the same agenda, so you should allow me to. No, you can't do that. If you want to be a private contractor, go ahead and do it. If you want to work with the AIDS Commission, you work under the rules that you've signed up to. So maybe she didn't get the proper advice before she embarked on this venture, and didn't realize that people take contracts seriously. Certain organizations take the obligations they've signed on to serious. Nobody just wants to throw their money at her or provide her with those facilities just because she's Jijo. She's there because she's doing some work for them. Once she stops doing that, they're under no obligation to continue funding for her.
All right, so we'll move on to the Daily Graphic. And, as we go, we'll tie in what is captured in the Daily Guide as well on the fundraising event, ceremony that did go on in Kumasi over the weekend. The Daily Graphic, this is what it says, that Nana Akufo-Addo promises to restore hope to Ghanaians. Nana Akufo-Addo promises to restore hope to Ghanaians. And the Daily Guide says that I'll scrap killer taxes. And they're quoting Nana. When Nana Akufo-Addo says, I will restore hope to Ghanaians, is there a hopelessness in the system?
Well, let me begin by commending the MPP for putting together what appears to have been a peaceful event at the Kumasi Sports Stadium in the Ashanti region. The pictures we have seen, though, have generated a lot of discussion, whether the program was so poorly attended or it was just organizational bereftness on the part of those who put the event together. We saw a lot of empty seats, and this is the World Bank, as we say in our local parlance, of the MPP. And so it is really surprising that in the Ashanti region, of all places where the MPP draws a lot of its support, we will see such empty seats. As we know, the Accra
the stadium is huge. Baba Yara.
The Baba Yara Stadium. The Baba Yara Stadium, as you know, it's just about 40,000, and you know that both parties, the MPP and the NDC, we can boast safely of some 3 million votes to be conservative. So, to the extent that we saw these empty seats, maybe
answer my question,
maybe yeah, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to your question. Maybe that's where the hopelessness is, because we have seen that their leadership has not inspired a lot of hope within the New Patriotic Party. If you're asking me to speak to hopelessness, I think that's where really we have seen. If I can conclude, because you've had a situation where top executives, the chairman, the general secretary, you have had respected elders in the party like Dr. Nyahuta Maklo, who are being dismissed with wanton disregard to internal procedures and to their rights, as they themselves have told us. Some of them indeed are in court, and so if you are looking for hopelessness amongst leaders, I think that the vast majority of Ghanaians will agree that, yes, the vast majority of Ghanaians will agree that that's where the hopelessness is. I mean, of course, having said that, you have the opposition leader looking for President Mohammed's job. What else do you really want him to say? He needs to portray a situation of hopelessness where he will be considered as an alternative by the voters.
May I come in, please? He says, my government will not condone nepotism and corruption. And then he goes on and on, talk about the taxes that have been introduced that have been criticized heavily by Ghanaians, and as a result of that, you have even Labour deciding to strike or go on a demonstration on the 20th of November. So that is what is, because they feel a certain uneasiness within the system.
If a lot of these taxes were being collected and there was nothing to see on the ground, you may want to agree with Nana Akufo-Addo. But in my sector alone, the education sector, we are currently constructing an unprecedented number of secondary schools, community day schools, for the entire 8-year period where Nana Akufo-Addo was in cabinet. And I have the records of the Ministry of Education. These are public knowledge. They did not construct a single new secondary school, not one. We currently have 123 at various stages of completion. We decided that it is not good for a country not to have public universities in all regions. So what have we done? We have completed the University of Health and Allied Sciences in the Volta region. We've completed the University of Energy and Natural Resources in the Bronga-Hafu region. We have just passed the bill for the University of Environment and Sustainable Development for the Eastern region, and Akufo-Addo's own region, which still does not have a public university.
Then away from education?
President Mahama is about to cut short for construction to begin. Away from education, only this weekend, President Mahama was cutting sort for the asphalting of our Accra roads from Lankwanta 9, Lejokuku, and the Adenta enclave. Beyond that, we've seen the massive infrastructure. You've seen the flyover, the circle interchange, which I'm sure that my good friend Honorable Osle Kufu must have used since her constituency is in Dansuman, and I know a lot of her constituents will appreciate that because Dansuman is my second home. Okay. Then you have the Wager flyover. You've seen all the Gifford roads.
Infrastructure. We get the picture.
You come to healthcare. You've seen the new Ridge Hospital coming up. I was amazed when I saw it. Driving in here, I haven't been there for a while. It's really, really impressive. That's a first-class hospital. You've seen the police hospital. You've seen the Tamale hospital, the Wa Regional Hospital that is coming up.
Okay, I know you have a point you want to make, but
because you are talking about tax. President Mahama does not collect taxes and pockets them or keeps them in his house. He uses it to implement. All the experts tell us that our infrastructure deficit is estimated at some 10 billion cedis annually. I mean, that is how lacking we are. So if you need to improve the living conditions of your people, and we know the bearing on all of these projects on productivity, on the quality of life, and making sure that you are able to raise the status of your nation. These are critical projects. So it's
if
not
the
just
question
enough.
comes, how does that put money in my pockets? Because Dr. Malkin is asked that question. How does it put money in your pocket?
Very important question. All of these projects that I've enumerated, you see human beings working there. Excuse my language, they are not robots. Not robots that are building these roads, building these schools, building this. On every community-based school site, and I visit a lot, you see not less than 200 workers. They are either masons or surveyors or welders or carpenters. I mean, you name them. Direct jobs. Don't forget about the indirect jobs, those who come to, sell food and other things to keep the projects going. These are monies that are going into the pockets of the people. President Mahama said last week at the media project, he has made sure, he told the road contractor that he should prioritize Ghanaian contractors. So 90% of all contractors currently working in the road sector are Ghanaian contractors. These are monies going to Ghanaian contractors and Ghanaian workers staying in their pockets. So if you tell me that you scrap these, what you call killer taxes, you are indirectly telling Ghanaians that there will be no development for us. Because is Nana Akufo-Addo going to use his personal money to develop this country? We must find money to develop our country. Where does the money come from? Every nation develops based on taxes. So it is quite pedestrian to just say I would scrap taxes. Okay. So it means that really, how are you going to develop the country? How are you going to pay workers? How are you going to run this country without taxes? It's one of the most bizarre statements I've heard in recent times.
We'll come back to that. Professor Alex, how did you
bizarre statement. Yeah.
Okay, I want to come to when Nana Akufo-Addo says that it's a fundraising ceremony. I mean, we're all gearing up, in the political campaigning mood, all of that. Do you see that as pushing it when you say you will restore hope? Do you see that as pushing it that there's hopelessness, some sort of?
No, I don't see it. I mean, if you're the leader of the position, your job is not to come and say that the country is good, so vote me in. You are not going to get any votes. Okay. So you must explain things the way you see it and clearly to your advantage.
Peg that to what's on the ground.
Okay, so I think the last time I was in the studio, I was asked a question that who should people vote for? And I made a statement, and I will come back to that same statement. That at the end of the day, I tell Ghanaians that don't vote for anybody, vote for yourself. As in, the day you stand in the polling booth, look at your situation and ask yourself, there are things so good for me that I want it to continue. If so, continue. Nobody should throw away a good thing. However, if you feel like, things are really tough, then go for change. At the end of the day, I think we'll be hearing a lot of noise and good stance as well in equal measure from politicians. Because we're in election season and you hear a lot of things, fine. But people should be true to themselves and they should be true to their country. Indeed, yesterday when I went to church, I told a friend, I was just praying that God give us the leaders we need. And finish. Because at the end of the day, there will be a lot of statements. Okay. And really, the leader of the opposition will be wrong if in standing there, he didn't make a case for change. He must make a compelling case that, look, put me in there, your situation will be much, much better. That is his job. If he doesn't do that, then really he must be changed. Okay,
but when he says, I'll scrap killer taxes, I mean, government has put in says I think they will generate the 3.9 billion cedis annually from the new taxes that they have introduced, and you have an opposition leader says that when I come in, or if I come in, he says when I come in, I would scrap that. I mean, realistically, can that even, and what is he going to then put in place?
Okay, you've asked a serious question, and let's look at it very objectively.
Sure.
No country develops without taxes. However, please note, there are several ways of raising funds to run a country. And indeed, as you move across the world, taxes vary. Indeed, let's use the US as a classical example. Sure. From state to state, some states charge 3% tax, some 6%, some 9%, some whatever percentage. So please, we should, that statement should be put in context. I think every single worker in this country pays tax. Well, unless, you evade tax, but we all pay tax. So taxes must be paid, taxes will be paid. But then there are extra taxes for this, for that, for that, for that. So the question you've got to ask is that, was Nana Akufo-Addo saying that I will scrap all taxes, or I will scrap some taxes? Every government have varied taxes, some up, some down, for different reasons. Why do people sometimes reduce or even remove taxes? Sometimes if you want to stimulate an economy, the best way is to remove taxes so that people will feel empowered to put in resources, to put in money, and move forward. Okay.
Even before you continue, he says here that so you can make your points well, that he says has passionately appealed, Nana Akufo-Addo has passionately appealed to Ghanaians to have hope in him and vote massively. He also assured Ghanaians he would scrap all killer taxes introduced by the National Democratic Congress. administration.
Okay, well,
Does that puts
the
into
story did not
perspective.
tell me what the killer taxes are, but let me make a few points, and these are important. One, there may be taxes, for instance, if you increase corporation tax, companies normally are disincentivized, some companies, not all companies, to move. So
Okay.
it will reduce things. If you increase import taxes, trade is our main job, so people may stop importing, and the taxes would have gotten from VAT would have gone down. So taxes are not a simple issue which is like black and white. If you increase the tax on water, you might make more money per bottle,
Okay.
but people may stop buying enough water. So as a sum, what you get will be lower. So one should put this in context. Everyone will pay taxes, but we need to ask, are the taxes going to stimulate the economy, that in the end we have more money, or are they not going to stimulate the economy? And once again, I say, in this country, we have a lot of expert economists. The problem we've had is that at each stage of the discussion, those who are painted to be NDC have to say toe one line, and those painted to be NPP toe the other line. And unfortunately, and I say this very sadly, that there is no room for a middle ground of discussing issues which are in the national interest. Because at the end of the day, if we want Ghana to move forward, this split such that middle level people cannot offer any suggestion for fear of being tainted left or right, it's not helping us.
Okay, so that's why I'm going to ask you a very direct question. I mean, you've given
Please
the answer,
do.
but on the new taxes that have been introduced, I mean, they are making particular reference to that. I mean, the government recently introduced, the new tax on petroleum, and then the tariff increment, and the reasons assigned to it. And given where we are, the energy deficits and all of that, bringing in IPPs to help us, cushion the power problems and the like. I mean, realistically, just that umbrella. Can those taxes be reversed and still run government effectively?
The answer I'll tell you is that yes and no. No, yes and no, because
Okay.
on one hand, if removing those taxes would ensure one way or the other that we have the supplies we need so that companies can run and make more profits and bring in revenue, that's fine. Because don't forget, if you increase taxes, companies can go out of business. That means that the taxes that government will get from the other side are gone. And that is why I keep saying that sitting in front of Ghanaians and saying, oh, take this off, take this on, it's too much black and white. It doesn't work that way. What do we want? We want a country which moves forward. Are we moving forward? We could be borrowing to look good, but we will have to pay the loans. So at the end of the day, what sort of taxes should we increase? Being a healthcare worker, I will be happy to say that put more taxes on booze, put more taxes on cigarettes. It doesn't help anybody. And yes, trust me, those who smoke or drink will still pay. And most countries put those punitive tariffs on those things. Utilities, well, I worry about that because I come from Jamestown, and any penny that you put on utilities worries people. And currently, people are really struggling due to the charges. And saying, and I'll come once again and saying that if we take away those taxes, we can't provide those services. For me, I think it's a little bit. Yes, we need some money to do the work. Is this the only way we can raise it? Can we not explore other options?
So government has been disingenuous in the way they have been
government has not been disingenuous. Government has taken one step, which can be a good step, but is that the only step? There could be alternatives, and we need to explore them. But I feel, and once again I appeal always to the president and my brother and sister here, that let's find a middle way that we can all sit down and judge on some of these things. I believe in the political process. There should always be parties, so there need to be chaos. And yes, some will win, some will lose. But when it comes to very, very big issues like this, please, let's not waste the resources of the country by polarizing it so much that no one can come. I can give you an example. You know very well that all power that is generated has to be sent to grade school, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
There are schemes in so many countries where people can just set up schemes to supply small communities. That is one option. It is not the only option. There are so many types of options. And anytime we look at government revenue, government also spends money. What can we cut down so that we can increase other things? What can communities take up? What can companies take up?
So why are we not doing it then?
Because
we're not. You stop thinking, or what is it? What takes
our political discourse has been focused on NDC and MPP and not on Ghana, until we begin to move towards a Ghana-centered approach. Seriously, look, we have great people in MPP, great people in NDC, but then at each stage of the time, we are using only have the brains of Ghana to run the country, because we are not creating that middle space where people can come in and say, look, President, this is all right, but it's not taking us there. We need to come to that middle ground. And I know Honorable will agree. But of course, with politicians, they're also tied. Can you believe Ursula here praising Honorable? And they are friends. We're all friends. So yes, let's do the politics. But please, let's begin to move away from the polarization. It's not
Thank
helping
you,
us.
Professor Alex Dodu. Madam Slowisu, now, I mean, we're in your seats. You were in Kumasi?
No,
You were not? Okay, but I mean, I know you're monitoring things. Absolutely.
She got some of the money.
So she added to the portal now.
So, yeah. When Nakum Akufo-Addo, like, I mean, he's presidential candidate for the NPP. Obviously, he has to appeal to people that yes, I am the better option than his main contender, the person he's contesting, President John Mahama. So when he says I'll restore hope to Ghanaians, what does he mean?
Yes, and it's very instructive that Okudzeto was fixated on numbers, the attendance at the stadium. But just for his information, over 10,000 ordinary people paid 20 cedis each. Over 10,000 ordinary people
But you told us you were going
paid 20 cedis each for this fundraiser. And I think if we encourage the ordinary members of our party to also contribute to finance the operations of our party, it is our various parties, it's a very good thing, instead of leaving it in the hands of a few financiers who then hold whichever party gets into power to run some.
Well, we didn't come to who gets to contribute to the fundraising, so I would appreciate if you could explain what the hope is.
I'm coming, but I mean that's how he answered the question. So
I would appreciate if
I have to answer that.
All right, go ahead.
And it's a 40,000 capacity stadium, and even for free events, it is not always easy to fill them. But I think we need to commend the MPP for this initiative and urge other parties to also emulate this ability to provide an opportunity for their membership to also contribute. And no amount is too small. We even started with a 1 CD text donation thing. It didn't go too well, I'm sure, but and this is also another opportunity. So these are innovative ways of financing political parties. So instead of sitting here saying, I saw pictures which showed reasonable attendance at the stadium, you would see the few empty seats there. But it's a question of whether the cup is half empty or half full, depending on which side of the fence you sit on. You will see good or you will see bad. But it was reasonably attended, and I'm happy about the initiative. Now, he says he will scrap killer taxes. And Nana Akufo-Addo says he will scrap the killer taxes. He's qualified it. He didn't say he will scrap all taxes. So to sit here and say that it is bizarre to say
I quoted the Daily Guide.
No, I'm answering Okudzeto here. That's why
I asked you answering me, because I asked the question.
I'm talking to the viewers. Okay. They heard him. They have to hear my response to that. I'm sorry about, but I'll get there. Don't worry.
Go ahead.
And he says you scrap the killer taxes, and there are killer taxes. I mean, if crude oil is at its lowest level ever, and yet Ghanaians are paying the highest ever, there's a disconnect. And you cannot understand why. And this is on top of the VAT, which was also smuggled in on the last day of sitting in December 2014. This was also done on the last day of sitting in December 2015, the last day Parliament sat. Both terms of Parliament. And we were denied the opportunity to debate this thing because it was done under a certificate of urgency. And I was so upset because all of us on our side saw that energy bill for the first time on the day it was debated. And we said, you can't do that to us. We've just seen it this morning. Give us a chance to read, seek more information about it, and come and debate it properly. And no, it was passed through under a certificate of urgency, denying the representatives of the people the opportunity to make an input. And for the ordinary people who are in the middle, a chance to also speak to the issue. So if you have these taxes imposed on us because the government wants money to do its election year projects and sword-cutting gimmicks that we're going to be exposed to this year, then you ask yourself, is it just campaigning getting money or excess funds to campaign, or is it solving a real problem? They're telling us about energy sector debt. How was that incurred? When was that incurred? What is the quantum of the debt? We were never given the opportunity to debate all those figures. We have paid a toll debt recovery levy. How much has been accrued? What has the money been applied for? We don't know. So it is just taxes upon taxes upon taxes. If Nana says it's going to restore hope to the people, and you are a nursing graduate who has been sitting at home for 3 years without a job.
Some of them they've already issued the instruction, and they're already been enrolled into the system.
Yeah, 3,700 were enrolled last week.
Oh, last week.
Yeah.
After they went on demonstration to the Flagstaff House.
After
they went on demonstration to the Flagstaff House. So there was the opportunity to enroll them. And was somebody sleeping on the job? Did it have to take that? Our children to sit at home for 3 years before somebody suddenly wakes up and says, oops, oh yes, we can take 3,700 of them. Is that the way to govern a country? And have you thought about what the country has lost in the 3 years that we've trained people? Even doctors, qualified doctors, have been sitting at home for a year without being posted. And we say we have a doctor-patient ratio deficit. You are here, you can speak to that. Is that the way to govern a country?
So that's
there is a need. We have provided a solution to it, and somebody is sitting down because, oh, it will not make our figures look good. IMF is breathing down our neck. We have to keep our labor costs low. So let them sit at home for 3 years. Then in election year, suddenly we wake up and find the jobs for them and say, clap for us, we've done well. I beg to differ. If you are a fresh graduate coming, please. These are all the evidence of hopelessness.
Okay.
And let me just give you another example. And you're a young man, very articulate young man, who has the opportunity to work as a deputy minister in the Ministry of Education. There are teeming numbers of unemployed graduates out there who have no hope of getting any employment. For them,
okay, my question
what message are you providing for
what's the plan the NPP has? I mean, how are you going to arrest unemployment, for instance? Well, how is Nana going to? Because you're speaking passionately about it. Clearly, you must have a plan. What's the plan?
Nana Akufo-Addo says, vote for him.
Before?
And he will show you a leadership which provides real solutions to the people and doesn't just sit there until everybody screams themselves hoarse before waking from their slumber and saying, oops, the opportunities already exist. Ghana has no business being poor. We have no business living under these very, very, very difficult conditions. People can't afford to feed their children. Now that schools have reopened, you are an MP, so am I. We are being inundated with requests for support for the payment of school fees, because look, beginning of the year,
what's it called?
I saw a bill. I will tell you about the free and tell you how the government disrespects Ghanaians.
How so?
Disrespects us. Somebody came to see me for assistance. I didn't think that he would need assistance to pay his children's school fees, and I told him that. He says, Ursula, you have no idea what we're all going through. I struggled to pay my children's fees last year. He's in Infansipim. And he showed me the bill.
But isn't that why the Infansipim headmaster, for instance, is gone?
It has nothing to do with it.
It has something to do with fees.
Has nothing to do with
everything with fees.
Oh, madam, let me finish.
No, but you're saying
I'm giving you one example. Yes. There's more.
Okay.
Oh, you want to move from Infansipim?
Oh, use Infansipim. The government is providing 380 CDs to them.
Yes.
Parents are being asked to pay an additional about 900 or so. All itemized for various things. Feeding fee alone, feeding fee is 380 CDs in a Infansipim school. That effectively cancels out whatever bursary the government is giving. Did the headmaster impose the feeding fee by himself? Did he? Or it is an approved fee? What about all the other schools that are having to scramble left, right, and center to ensure that the students eat? And you say you're providing what? Free education. And I laugh. What do you take Ghanaians for? What do you take us for? You think you can just do political sophistry and we'll all go along with you because we are, for want of a better word, idiots.
Yep.
And we can't read through the lines? Please.
You've enumerated, I mean, yeah, problems.
Unemployment.
The situation.
Now
Yes.
they tout,
Yes,
they tout, we built Ridge Hospital, world class, wonderful. When I'm sick and health insurance does not work, I will go and stand there and look at the building and be healed. And then clap for the government. Oh, you built a wonderful hospital.
But
I am healed. Okay. Hallelujah. Health insurance has collapsed.
So the solution?
The solution.
You're saying, Nana, we should vote. I mean, when you're not in governance, but when you're not in governance,
we've been there before. And if you want unprecedented achievements, it is growing the economy to such a level that we could introduce innovative social intervention programs which brought real benefit to the people, like the health insurance which you have superintended its collapse, like the capitation grant which you poo-pooed and which is now, you're now saying that you've expanded, like the school feeding program which ensured that pupils could go to school and be retained in school.
Okay.
Last week or so, the caterers were on strike. Today, I hear they've now been paid. So you create a problem unwittingly. No, this is knowingly, not unwittingly. You refuse to pay them and they live and work on credit. And sometimes the children have to go hungry. Okay, and then you say we should clap for you. Excuse me.
Your point
Nana will come and restore hope to Ghanaians and make sure all these and many more social interventions are introduced and are implemented well to provide real hope to the people.
Okay, thank you.
That we will not have.
Madam, I say your time is up. Thank you very much. Mr. Okudje to a block. I mean, you listened to her. She enumerated and, you know, but says, okay, Nana says, vote for me and then I will show you how.
Again, very strange. You are asked for your plan. You must have a plan before you go into government. You don't tell me that.
She says they've done it before.
You don't tell me that, vote for me. And I'm happy she says that, remember us, we have been there before. Yes, remember the MPP. They've indeed been there before. What led to the situation where by 2008, in the run-up to the second round of elections, they had to go on their knees begging Ghanaians? You remember that?
You would have to give me a chance to respond.
What had happened over the 8-year period when they were in power and when Nana Akufo-Addo was in cabinet is that all of their promises had been broken.
Really?
They promised that they would reduce fuel prices. You remember that?
When they eventually did.
When they came, the first 6 months, they increased it from 6,000 to 10,000 cities. I remember very well because I was a leading member of the CJA. They said they would have rice importation at least.
Okay,
by the time I joined the CJA when I was in school as NUC's president.
There was no CJA then.
So you should.
There was no CJA in 2001. There was no CJA. Please.
Can you allow me to speak?
Yes, you will be allowed. But be factual.
Rice importation.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
This rice importation when they were coming into power was around $100 million. They said they would at least half it, so that rice importation would be $50 million. By the time they were leaving power, it was in excess of $400 million. You know why she couldn't tell you anything about how they plan to create jobs for the youth?
Give me time.
Their record is to ask all unemployed youth to come and be registered. After the registration, what happened? They were asked to go home, and nothing happened. God. You remember what they said about converting all slums in Ghana? In their manifesto, they said all slums from Nima, Newtown will be converted to first-class residential areas. That's what they said in their manifesto. I can go on and list the litany of broken promises, including how they promised affordable houses and could not complete even one room.
At least we start.
One room. Or they tell you, we started. So you see, Ghanaians are well aware of the MPP's record. And that is why in 2008, despite they going on their knees and they begging, they were thrown out. And we are guided by that record. We don't want to get to a situation where we would also have to go on our knees and beg the people for disappointing them and for failing to deliver on our promises. Now, how do you deliver on your promises? I agree with Prof that you must come up with creative ways. If you take this government, you notice that we have been high on our social interventions. Because, you see, when you are increasing taxes, you must accept that a lot of vulnerable groups will suffer. And increasing taxes is not a pleasant thing. It's the last thing that any government wants to do. President Mahama will wish that nobody even pays for anything, and that there was manna falling from heaven, and that, you know, just by word of mouth, like how creation happened, let there be good roads and there will be roads, let there be hospitals and there will be hospitals. But what do? You make sure that as you bring these taxes, and I'm happy that she was asking, for example, this the energy bills, the debts. When did it accrue? That's why we have christened them legacy debts. We didn't want to play partisan politics. That's why we haven't gone into, oh, you started it or that started it. These debts at ECG, at VRA, at Greco, are debts that have been there. If you talk to your members on the Energy Committee, they will tell you, since over the last 15 years, they've been there. Estimated at some 4.5 billion Ghana cedis. You introduced the TOR debt recovery levy. Nana Akufo-Addo was in parliament. That was a new tax that was introduced. Some people at the time thought it was a killer tax. But what happened? The better part of 7 years, the TOR debt recovery levy was
collected.
They did not use it for the purpose it was intended for. It was us who came to power and found money to pay the TOR debt recovery levy using the Ghana Commercial Bank and other syndicated arrangements. So we know their record. And I was talking about how, as a government, we have kept our eye on social interventions. We've introduced the Free Sandals program. We've expanded the school feeding program. We've introduced free uniforms. We have introduced the free SHS program, which is costing us some 57 million Ghana cedis. She raised the case of infancipalm. That is why I'm happy that you corrected or informed her that we have intervened in the infancipalm case where the headmaster is on interdiction, because a lot of those fees she was talking about are illegal fees, and we have told heads that they should cooperate with us. These are tough times. They should not on their own introduce fees. We have said that apart from the approved fees, if you want to introduce any new fees, call a PTA meeting, let parents agree, show us the minutes, and then come to the GES, the Ghana Education Service, for approval. That is the procedure. You don't just on your own and create separate accounts where these monies go into those accounts, and these are public schools, and then monies are siphoned, we don't know where it goes to. So we are doing our best. The free SHS program is a progressive one. As Article 25 of the Constitution says, we are not saying that we have made it entirely free. But if you look at the fact that some 57 million Ghana cedis every year has been taken off parents, off Ghanaians, then you can go on and talk about all the other social interventions like LEAP, which has been LEAP has been more than quadrupled. You know, the LEAP beneficiaries have been more than quadruple. So you notice that this is a government that is not just out there trying to impose hardship or just increasing taxes.
But that's how Labour feels. I think TUC General Secretary is quoted as saying the government has lost touch with the reality or with the people.
I mean, as you know, Labour are natural allies, and as a social democrat, I always admire the labor unions, and I think that Kofi Asamoah and his team are doing a good job. Of course, you expect them to hold the line and support their workers. We have said that these taxes are not a pleasant experience. We had wished that we didn't take over a government that had all these energy debts, a lot of the power crisis that a lot of the challenges that have caused the power crisis that we're currently going through is financial, you know, and you look at the state of our economy. It is important. It is important to emphasize that we all want solutions to all of these challenges, from power to health delivery to education and all of that. So we must meet each other halfway. And that's why the Labour Minister, Honorable Harry Idrisu, has been engaging them. And government will continue to engage them. They have told us that by Wednesday, if they do not see some shifting of positions, they will have to hit the streets. The talks continue. I know that they will be meeting today. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to reach some amicable resolution of these issues. But you see, let those who have such an abysmal record, at managing this economy, at creating jobs, at fulfilling their promises, just allow us to do what Ghanaians have asked us to do. President Mahama has been extremely cooperative. I disagree with anybody who says that, for example, that the energy levy bills just appeared in Parliament the day it was passed.
It did.
You certainly do not belong to the Finance Committee, so I can understand. The Finance Committee was well in possession of that bill and had discussed it before they brought their report. Before they brought their report.
I saw that energy bill
Parliament is organized around committees. You know that.
We rose on the 16th. The energy, the finance committee saw it on the 14th.
Yes.
A day.
So
or even the day before, I'm sure.
Say that
I saw it as a member of parliament that same day, and that's a fact.
Let us just be fact. The fact that you saw it the same day doesn't mean it came.
I can only speak for myself. I said I didn't talk about when the executive brought it.
You put us in bad light.
I said I saw it.
There was an attempt to just smuggle it the same day. No.
I saw it that day.
You saw it that day, but it didn't come to
Parliament
that day.
Because it was put in our pigeonholes.
It didn't come to Parliament
the day before. And it's a fact. So let's not belabor that point.
So this is not the first time that the government is increasing taxes or introducing taxes. What is important is that when you collect these taxes, don't behave like the MPP who collected the TOR debt recovery levy and did not redeem TOR. They did not pay to TOR. That is the fact.
And you should not allow this misinformation to continue.
Everybody knows that in Ghana. I'm surprised that says it's not true. Don't you know that?
That
the TOR debt recovery levy was
formed. Who can sit here and say CJA was formed in 2001?
I didn't say it was formed.
You said you joined it in 2001.
I said I belong to the CJA.
That increase was in 2001.
I said on petroleum matters, we know your record. I was with the CJA.
Play it back to him.
I know your record.
Play it back.
I know your record. That's the point I didn't say it was formed. I didn't say it was formed in 2001.
We had one opportunity. You've given him another opportunity.
When you are speaking, I don't
speak on the. When you had 2 rounds for this issue, he had only one. No, yes you did. Yes you did. The first topic we discussed, you had 2 opportunities. He had only one. Oh, I thought you did. I thought you cared about.
I care more about the organ. I care a whole lot more about every Ghanaian who's suffering under this NDC yoke than one individual who has HIV. I'm sorry, but on the scale of things, did just problems pale in comparison with the youth of this country, the workers of this country, the unemployed? The single mothers, Jijo pales into insignificance. When you put her on that scale, so don't compare Jijo with the energy sector.
Jijo is not here. I have my time.
That was the point I was making.
That's the point you were making.
The point I was making was that I had twice spoken to both of you. You had only one moment.
And I'm telling you, I was sitting here spreading falsehood about the record of my party. You have to give me a chance to rebut.
60 seconds, please. 60 seconds to wrap up.
You can't just sit there and spread falsehood about the MPP. You can't do that.
The record of the party is not. I'm not done.
You care for us, and you want everybody to our needs, and that's caring for us. 7 years of misery we've imposed on Ghanaians. We moved this economy from 4 billion to 16 billion.
They say the truth.
That's gross.
They say the truth hurts, so I can.
The truth hurts.
I can appreciate.
When Bawumia said the energy sector was a financial problem, you all lined up and insulted him. Today you sat here and admitted that's a financial problem, and we all have to chip in and pay. If you had listened to him a year ago, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Listen to me carefully. I said that part of the factors
leading to that. It's a financial problem. So now you've imposed these killer taxes.
You know you had a moment, right? You know you've had a moment.
I told you I had to leave at a quarter to 8.
You've had your moment.
She talked about health insurance.
One moment, we'll take.
She talked about health insurance.
I have to go. I told you I had to leave at a quarter to 8 because I had a meeting at 8. I'm sorry. I told the producer.
Just one moment. We'll take a break. Yes.
Yeah, health insurance has not collapsed. If you look at the records here, and the
30 seconds.
Page 29 of the accounting to the people book, which President Mahama,
Your propaganda to
President Mahama
15 seconds.
adored. Outpatient utilization of the NHS has risen to 29.6 million in 2014 from 16.6 million in 2009. Claims payments have gone up from 597,000 to over 1.7 billion Ghana cedis. Those are the facts. Health insurance has not collapsed.
All right.
Are there challenges? Yes, we can discuss the challenges, but to sit here and say categorically that health insurance has collapsed, you are not being truthful.
All right. Madam Eslow, you said you have another meeting, so you would have to go.
Okay.
Okay. So Madam Eslow also would excuse us this morning because she has another meeting, and she had told my producers that indeed she would leave 7:45. So we'll continue the discussion with Professor Alex Dodu and then Deputy Minister of Education here, Mr. Okujeto Ablakwa. So yeah, we will not take a break. We'll just we'll just blank the screen just a little bit so she can excuse us. Professor Alex Dodu, just a moment, hang on. They will do it. They will do it from the studio. Professor Alex Dodu, the final newspaper says here that IMF backs killer taxes. IMF backs killer taxes. Urges government to continue with harsh policies despite public outcry. Labour has been very vocal, very upfront. They haven't minced when it comes to how they feel about the taxes that have been imposed, and a lot of people say it's because of the program that we're under, the 3-year program that the IMF has put us under. For whether IMF comes out, I mean, they actually even issued a report, which was, and they said, yeah, it was not so good, but we'll get there. Does that surprise you? Isn't it IMF simply saying that, well, Ghana is on track?
The first thing I would have said,
No.
I was so, Kwame, where are you? Referring to Kwame Nkrumah.
Come.
I think the moment as a country we begin to rely on what the IMF says or does not say to make our national decisions, I'm sure we are wrong. I'm really sorry.
We rely on IMF and World Bank
No,
reports to do our
according
things.
to the politics that you have been listening to is whether IMF says we are doing well or not. What about the ordinary Ghanaian? Okay. What about we who live in Ghana? Trust me, it is not in the interest of anybody to see the progress of Ghana apart from Ghanaians. And if we as a people will not be coming together to find solutions to our problems and we wait for IMF gives us red light, green light, yellow light, I'm sorry, then we are joking. We are a sovereign country. And our aim, yes, we go for a loan, meet the loan conditions. Every country, even the United States, goes for loans. So there's nothing wrong with going for loans. And you find a nice place to go for loans. Hopefully the so-called Bretton Woods institutes are supposed to help us. But I don't go there because when you see how things are run in developed countries and you come back here, you sometimes wonder. We've been out there when I have said, okay, educational this, educational that, and I have been asking questions. If the conditions under which kids are going to school today were the ones I had, I would never have gone to university. It's as simple as that. And over the years, all of us collectively have contributed to that. For me, till we come to the stage where we realize that go to the US, typically, preschool, even the buses come and pick kids and send them to school. In every state, there will be the buses. Go to the UK, it's the same thing. Indeed, the UK only introduced university fees, is it 2 or 3 years ago? It used to be free completely. So please, let's come back and realize that health and education are things that you need to build the country. If IMF says pay, and we pay. You remember 82, 83? President Rawlings fought against those things. And then, of course, whatever happened, and then in the end, we have to do structural adjustment programs, etc. These are what I call poor man's solutions. Unfortunately, these solutions never help you to grow. They don't help you to grow. As a country, they stifle you. Because it's like you are fighting so much that you have small growth. What you need are incremental growth. So as far as I'm concerned,
but where we are neck deep. I mean, it's
we are neck deep because we have created it. We live in a country whereby nobody has any love for the country. When I say nobody, I mean it's qualified, obviously. But do we sit down and say, look, what are the problems and how do we solve it? And I can start from health and go through education. Come on, should we always be just borrowing to solve our problems? Give us solutions which work, solutions which will transform this country. We can do it. I beg you, we can do it. Other countries have done it. Other countries have done it. We look at the Middle East and say, oh, look at Dubai, look at this. We are happy we run there. What do we do as a country? Sometimes you sit back and say, do we really believe in this whole concept called Ghana? If we do, we're doing things differently.
Okay, we'll come back to what the space we have, and the space the government operates, and how much of it,
the space we have is poison. The space we have is poison. Seriously.
No, I
was listening to Honorable and Osla having. I'm saying that these are two smart people that if you take away NDC and MPP, the two of them will solve any problem they put their mind to. No, seriously, because you know what? Let's look ourselves in the eye and say that are we telling the truth to each other and to our people?
Okay. All right.
Look, I do health politics, so I know politics is also a different ball game altogether. So I'm not denying the fact that if I were a politician wearing the hat of any party, I'm sorry, I have to toe the party line.
Okay, all right. I just want to read just a paragraph of what the paper has here. It says, with Ghanaians yearning for a change in their circumstances after being plagued by economic hardships, especially recent imposition of numerous taxes and tariff hikes, the International Monetary Fund is urging government to continue in that direction. The position of the IMF confirms the suspicion of some economists who said that the recent increases in taxes and tariffs were fueled by IMF conditionalities. Were they fueled by IMF conditionalities, or just that the reality is such that government had no choice?
Well, let me say that the president last week addressed this issue where he talked about how before we went into the fund program, we had our own homegrown solution. And I mean, as leader of this nation, he tried his best to push through the homegrown solutions. But the donor partners, the IMF and the World Bank, really wanted to have us in this program. And so we had to submit. And remember, there was this Senchi consensus, and Prof is passionate about that, and I agree with him that it's not on every issue, especially education, health, that should take partisan lines. I mean, I do not support the politicization and the partisanship, extreme partisanship that greets every debate. So the Senchi consensus was a fine opportunity to bring everybody around the table, and I remember
so
that
the single is it a single spine or the economy,
the economy,
the world economy,
the Ghanaian economy, and where the Ghanaian blueprint, the Senchi consensus emerged, which was more of a validation of the homegrown solutions. But still, you notice that the financial conglomerates in the current world order still preferred that Ghana should go onto a program. I mean, some of us ideologically have our own views about the IMF and the World Bank. I'm looking at the landscape. I'm not seeing any country really that they have delivered. All these Asian tigers that we celebrate, did it without the IMF and the World Bank. So some of us have our own position, but that is for another discussion. So the president too will tell you that he had his own views about this, and he told all of us last week how this homegrown solution had to finally be submitted to the IMF and the World Bank. And really, a lot of what we are implementing now had already been thought of. And the president says it's a simple matter. If you are a family, you are a family, and you are head of the family, and you know that this is your salary levels, and you are beginning to spend more than what you earn, you know what you must cut back on and all of that, and how if you have to take a second job or a third job to be able to keep up with your expenditure. School fees have gone up, there are some medical challenges you need to address. So the president simplifies it, that we know that. And so it was more for policy credibility that we had to bring in the IMF. So I agree with Prof that what matters is what the Ghanaian people are saying. As for the IMF, World Bank, there are all these rating agencies, and what they say, there is another constituency out there that will judge Ghana based on what the IMF says, based on what the World Bank says, all these international financial organizations and these rating agencies and all of that. So what they say, really should be situated within that context and who they want to listen to them, because they have become more of people who you may want to call independent, neutrals, who want to judge your situation, and then others will make a decision whether to invest, whether to partner with you within the global environment. Yes, but ultimately we have our eyes on the Ghanaian people. I am a rural MP. I go into my constituency and I see the conditions. I see that we need more schools, we need more roads, electrification has to be expanded, and you need more hospitals, and you must do this within a space of 4 years.
And that's your reality.
That is the reality. And the Ghanaian people expect you to do that. So how do you do it? You balance it. And I would also say that it is not every solution that we have come up with that have been driven by loans. You know, often I hear that do you have to borrow for everything? No. There are some of the issues that are policy measures. For example, if you take the president's Made in Ghana initiative, he didn't have to borrow for that. But it has
right
it
after
has,
that
it
policy.
has,
I'm sorry, I have
yeah.
to come in here. But right after you mentioned Made in Ghana, right after that policy, we saw what happened in Parliament, and then with the Job 600, and that was just a demotivator for a lot of people who said, "Oh, okay, he said we should do Made in Ghana," and then look at them, they betray us.
That can be said, and yes, it can be demotivating. I agree. But when was that order placed and all of that? I cannot speak for the Parliamentary Service Board, but we will get there. We will get there, and it's gradual. For example, if you look at the instruction we received at the Ministry of Education that all our textbooks should be printed locally, our exercise books should be printed locally so that we can build the local printing sector. We are doing that. For the first time, we have not only awarded contracts to publishers, but also printers, and the publishers are obliged to print with the short list of printers who we have presented to them. So those printers, Ghanaian printing firms, will get the contract and jobs will be created here. We didn't have to borrow for that. For example, when we reviewed the BEC policy, it was a one-off killer examinations, where if you fail your BEC exams, you cannot rewrite to be able to have a better chance at pursuing your programs in secondary school. We reviewed that. We met with the West Africa Examination Council and told them that Ghana, this is how we want to go. We didn't borrow for that. So I can give you a long list of policies and programs and initiatives that we've had to carry out that will have a huge impact on our economy and our nation, on livelihoods, that we did not have to borrow for that. But for borrowing, which country doesn't borrow? The United States owes.
But there's a limit to how much you can borrow, and looking at your size.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why you work the limits, and that's why you also come up with innovative ways. You see, if we had a situation where majority of our Ghanaians were in the tax net, we will not all be feeling the pinch. There's only a few of us in the public, in the public sector.
I mean, for those who find themselves outside
in the public
of it.
And a few private institutions who are, I mean, the vast majority of your people are untaxed. 70% of the population are in the informal economy, and we have not found a way of expanding the net, because if you expand the net, then we all share it, then the burden is reduced. But as it is now, a few of us, and that is why you notice that increasingly, where it's easy to target everybody, fuel has become successive governments, fuel, then sometimes utilities have to also be brought in. But I agree that those hit everybody, and we need to find a way. The GRA, and I know the president has taxed the GRA, the Ministry of Finance, to come out with innovative ways of expanding the tax net, and they are working hard at it. You have colleagues there who are very passionate about this country, who love this country, and who want to, because it's good for all of us. All of us, when we take our pay slips at the end of the month and we see how much taxes, and it's just a few of us bearing the brunt for everybody, and really we need to discuss that as well.
Okay, don't you think government should be specific in terms of targets? I hear every year that the GRA exceeded its targets for the year, so they set a target, say whatever amount is set, they reach that, and it's okay for them. And year on year out, you hear that. When you hear that, obviously they'll be relaxed. Why can't government be more specific and say no? By this time, we should have, say, these groups under. Why can't we have? Because you keep talking and say that government is working and we're working to expand it. Then
no, I agree with you on this targeting issue, and the finance minister agrees with you. I've been in discussions with him, and Honorable Setekwe has said that he has even been increasing the targets, because sometimes you can set low targets and then you meet it and you're happy. We have all seen exposés, especially by your colleagues in the media, on the leakages, right, the ports and all over the place. If we can plug the holes and we can widen the net, it helps all of us. So yes, the finance ministry, I know, has been working hard to carry out this expansion and also to raise the targets for GRA. But having said that, I also think that we should ask ourselves, really, at what pace do we want to develop? Ghanaians are increasingly becoming impatient with this, new digital environment, and they are exposed to what is happening elsewhere. We are traveling a lot and all of that. They are becoming increasingly impatient on the political leadership. We don't want an Arab Spring where people don't see opportunities, people don't see development and all of that. So you must be aggressive as a leader, and that's what President Mahama has tried to do, to be aggressive. And unfortunately, we have not all supported him as we should. You know, we're saying he's borrowing too much, he's raising too many taxes, but how do we carry out this? Because you see, you have to be careful. If you don't meet the expectations of the people, and you don't invest in them. I see these things as investments. I don't see them. I don't see them as investments. I don't see them as just taxes or just hardship, but they are investments which will help us. Look at our gas infrastructure at Etuabu. You know, by the time we're able to cross 2016, we'll even be saving $500 million, you know, in foreign exchange, because of the investments that we have made in the gas sector, and we can even export power to neighboring countries and to other nations. So we have high expectations. We are very ambitious and people, because of our reputations, right from the independence struggle and all of that. And all of these high expectations and all these demands must be paid for. Where do you get the money from? And that has been the dilemma of the current government. And we appeal to everybody. Yes, taxes are not easy to bear, but you notice that we are counting to you increasingly on how we are using your taxes. That is why this book was published.
All right.
Exactly.
Your point is well made.
And you notice, as I said also, we have increased our social intervention. That is critical to take care of the vulnerables, those who fall through the cracks, so that they can also come along with us.
You talked about money, like it's huge, and that like the dilemma is government. Is it really a dilemma? Have we stopped thinking? What really is the problem with why government hasn't been able to expand, say, the tax net?
You know what? In Ghana, when the solution is so easy, we throw it away. Look, everybody pays tax in most developed countries. That's the only way they develop their countries. You look at the US, typically, you look at even Southern Africa. I always like to compare both sides, not South Africa, Southern Africa. Every single citizen has a card. They've always had a card. Fine, it's the legacy of apartheid. But identifying people was never a problem. And if you can identify people, you can tax them. What do we see in Ghana? I mean, when I had a debate about whether we did a new electoral registrar, you need this, I said, one solution we know would have solved everything. And yet, for reasons best known to politicians, the solution is never there. Because if every Ghanaian had an ID card which is credible, which is, I mean, in most countries, people even use it like their passports. All this business about overage and underage becomes a moot point. And you know what is sad about all these? We live in an era whereby solving these things is no longer rocket science. I mean, ID cards is been done. It's been done by several countries that doing it or wanting to do it. It's like this. But what are we doing now? We are taking money to go and solve the problem with the EC. That's one thing. We are doing something different for NHIS. We are doing something for this. In the end, if it costs 100 million, 100 million, 100 million, we could have used 100 million to solve one problem which cuts across and brings us more revenue.
So misplaced priority? It's
not misplaced priority. It's just, I believe that, you see, Ghanaians must understand two things. One, we must all try and serve Ghana, but sometimes even within the same party, education is fighting for its own side. That I want to do my ID card, health wants to do their ID card. So even within one party, then of course when you add on to,
we have a leader.
Shall we say that when you go to cabinet meetings, it becomes a different discussion. But look, let's face it, and this is the appeal to all Ghanaians. Let us stop the shouting and the talking. There are things that if we do from the beginning and we do them well, this country will move forward. We spent, I was in Dubai over the weekend with the Vice Chancellor for US because we had some work to do. And we spent the whole time in the airport lounge talking about what has gone wrong. Because we need a vision that moves this country, and that vision brings in everybody. Kwame Nkrumah tried. Of course, we all know what happened.
Sure.
But beyond him, we've had issues. You have a bit of bright light and then it goes off. A bit of bright. We should come to the position where by today, January 2016, Ghanaians consider and say, okay, healthcare, are we delivering to the people? I'm a healthcare worker. I know the treatment we give Ghanaians is not good. Let's face it. I don't know the day, yes, you can have the infrastructure. What if healthcare workers, doctors, pharmacists, nurses don't treat you with the care you deserve? Don't treat every single Ghanaian as a human being, regardless of whether you are rich or you are poor. But we live in a country whereby things have become so polarized and, broken down, really is the word to use. And you are hoping that very soon we will begin to, I would say, engender that sort of fellow feeling that, look, we are in this together. I also got this project, like we jump in the same ship called Ghana. We have to make sure that that ship goes. And yes, Honorable has said a lot of things, most of which I agree with, some of which I want to say, if we throw away the politics, can't we solve it? For instance, yes, we want to do things for Ghanaians. Are we going to look at only NPP Ghanaians or NDC Ghanaians or all Ghanaians? Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be just what we say.
So do you subscribe to the National Development Planning, Commission, that we have a policy as a country, say, I'm not to talk about the 40 years, but then we have goals that, as a country, that this is what we need to do, whether it's a target-based infrastructure, whatever it is, then we subscribe. So regardless of whatever government comes to power, there is a template.
Let me say this, and our politicians will not like me for that, but the reality of the situation is that we can do things in public. That is straightforward. Okay. But if we really want to change this country, there's nothing wrong with the president calling Alex Dodu, calling Baumia, calling this, and say, look, let's have a beer. Let's sit somewhere quiet. Let's begin to develop these agendas. So it's not what we say. What we say, that's easy.
Then how will Baumia win the next election?
That's why I say, that's why he shouldn't do it publicly. When I'm using the Baumia Senko, I'm just throwing them. Just call the brains of this Ghana. Seek them out. Find them. Have a retreat. Discuss things. Because look, at the end of the day, it's not going to be what we say. It's going to be how we do things. How we bring people into the fold. We are not bringing one another into the fold.
I thought we did that with Senchi.
Senchi didn't go that far. And I will quote, I usually do not quote this, but recently I read a book, Adokufo's book. So I had a chat with him. And he says, Alex, take it from me. You can say it anywhere. I don't think we are helping this country. If at each stage of the time, we're only using half the brains. And in fact, I was shocked. So I said, but you used to be a minister. He said, no, I don't believe in this kind of politics. We need a new way. This is Honorable Adokufo, right? It's in his book. And I was shocked. So I actually sought him out and said, look, I want to hear more, because it's not often that you have people coming out like that. And I mentioned that Honorable Senchi was good. But the point I mean is that these sort of public things are not the real things. The real things are what you do behind the scenes. Most of us will be willing to sit and fight and give you our views. Whether it's taken forward or not, it's out of the thing. But quite often, almost everything we want to do, we want to get the limelight. And in the end, it becomes difficult to get the real meaning. Look, if you have had what I say, a kitchen cabinet and discuss what comes on in public, fine. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure if Honorable calls me and says, okay, Alex, I want to do A, B, C, D here. What do you think? I say, this is wrong, this right. He may or may not agree, but he's been informed. Okay.
I want to bring in this. There was a picture of President Mahama and I believe Kojo Mpieni. And I think they had gone into a meeting. That picture came out, and a lot of people were criticizing it. That he's supposed to be NPP, so why is he with the president now? How do we get over that kind of mentality?
The only way you get over that mentality is to want to do it. I always talk about commitment. If we want to change this country, we seek each other out, sit in the quiet, and begin to do things. Slowly, our members will begin to feel that it's not about this fighting here and there. If you speak to President Kufuor, typically he will tell you that this fighting polarization is not helping anybody. Seriously, we live in a country whereby anything any politician says has to look like, yes, I'm the hardest in NDC or the hardest in NPP. And what happens? It's led to what we are calling the insults, the intolerance. And please note, if you look at both parties, about 90% are moderates. But we are allowing the few who shout to create a sense of war. And Honorable said about the Arab Spring, all it takes is one unwise person to think that what somebody said as a joke on the radio station is reality.
I think it happened. It happened where somebody, I think, used was a bit another person.
And I've heard from both parties, the serial callers, that this man goes to this station because they heard me. Go there, hear this word insult her. It is the truth. You know what? And I felt sad. I felt sad for this country that both parties are actually having people who they send to the stations where they are insults. They say, no, this man is sensible. He should have to go to this sensible station. Both parties do it. I will say that politics can be played, but let's, we the elders, we the statesmen, find a space, and it cannot be public. It should not be public. Where we begin to engage each other, to begin to find real solutions. As for the politics side, unfortunately, people have to vote, and we'll leave that. Because look, if you look at all countries, look at Dubai, how do they grow? They start out and say, we are going to have a 40-year plan. But the chiefs are important, the clans are important.
They have a different kind of...
No, so they had a different kind of change. And then when they all agreed and things started, it's moving. So regardless of who is supposed to be a minister, then nothing will change because they know where they are going. It's done in Singapore, it's been done in Malaysia. We need that power brokers. And really, currently we don't have it. Our chiefs, they have their issues. The churches, we have our issues. The politicians, so who speaks for Ghana? Who holds the soul of Ghana? Look,
That's an interesting
no,
question.
Prof,
That's a very.
Prof,
I even want to hear.
no, it's a good point Prof has
The
raised,
soul of
but I
Ghana.
can assure Prof that there's a lot of that going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of that.
I pray so.
And if you just I'll just appeal to you, take a look at the president's appointments, memberships of councils, of boards, you know, the various ministerial advisory councils. You know, often these people are in the background advising us. The technical committees that we set up before we implement programs. Recently, we had, not too recently, 2 years ago, we had Bridging the Gap conference between academia and industry, where we brought, our finest brains in academia and industry to see how there can be some strong nexus between the two, so that, products from academic institutions can dovetail quite perfectly into industry, and we sought to find out exactly what industry also needs, and it was. I can share with you the report from that workshop. It was really revealing. So there's a lot of that going on, but you see, the challenge is where you also have others who are just out to poo-poo everything you do, and when they are not in the leadership, you know, then nothing good can happen. Nothing good can happen to Ghana. It becomes difficult when when you have a section of your community engaged in that kind of politics. But I agree with Prof. Laji.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to both gentlemen in the studio. Deputy Minister, Education, also Member of Parliament, Notong, for joining us. Also, Professor Alex Dodu. If you don't know him, then you're not a Ghanaian. Director, for joining us this morning as well. Professor Alex Dodu, always a pleasure having you, and also you. First time hosting you here, so we hope to see you more as well. And also, a big thank you to Madam Eslo, Member of Parliament for Blakema West constituency. She joined us, but she had to take leave of us.